And with that, welcome into the streaming edition of KC Sports Tonight on a Monday. Jared Koller here rocking with the star of the sports department, everyone's favorite, Marleah Campbell.
Wow,
has
what an
graced
intro.
us
It's going to be hard
her
to live
presence.
up that.
And you know what? We're excited. Why? Because it's Monday, and we love Mondays around here, right, Marleah?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. But no, we are celebrating some good news here in Kansas City. Because the Royals have had one of the best seasons for a team that lost more than 100 games the year before. So that in itself has been an impressive turnaround. We'll see if they can sustain this level of play and compete for the playoffs in September. But even if they don't, Marleah, we will always have 4 Royals All-Stars for this season, something that has not happened in a couple of years, and it's only happened a handful of times, 7 times to be exact, over the history of the Royals franchise. Seth Lugo, Bobby Witt Jr., Cole Ragans, and Salvador Perez, all named All-Stars on Sunday. And so today we're going to go one by one, talking about how significant this is, you know, what we think of each player, and why this really is cause for celebration. Because, Marleah, every Major League Baseball team is guaranteed 1 All-Star, okay? Doesn't matter how bad you are. And I think that's good. I like that, all right? Because I think, you know, on the grand stage, everybody's represented. The Royals got more than 1, and so that means that this team is, you know, taken seriously across the league, that they have the respect of the players and coaches. This wasn't fan voted. This was by players and coaches. So let's start with that overall, your impressions of all 4 guys getting in.
Yeah, I was just going to say, one, I think it paints a really cool picture of where the Royals are at right now, having Salvador Perez, who has been here for a long time. I think this is, his 9th All-Star game, 3rd in the last 4 years. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have Bobby Witt Jr., 24 years old, and his very first All-Star game. You know, and those are the 2 cornerstones of this team, and I think they're the key to why any team is successful. You have to have that mix of veteran leadership and young superstar talent. This team has both of those. And then, you know, big congratulations to the 2 pitchers. We were talking to Seth Lugo in the locker room, I think it was last week, the week before, and he was talking about, you know, how much this would mean to him and how, you know, you don't take things like this for granted because they don't come around that often. And super well deserved. You know, Lugo was a steal of a get in retrospect over the course of the offseason. So going to be a lot of fun to see them down there. And, you know, I mentioned Bobby Witt, and I know we're going to talk about him in a second. The All-Star game is going to be 30 minutes from where he grew up, too. So pretty special news for him.
No, I think all 4 have very cool storylines that we'll get into, and all 4, I think, very deserving. Let's start with Bobby Witt Jr. First of all, the news of the day, if you haven't heard, he's going to be joining the Home Run Derby.
Oh, that's going to be so fun.
Yeah, just the 5th Royal ever to compete in that Home Run Derby. We'll get to that, but first the All-Star portion, because even if he wasn't going to be hitting yams a week from tonight, it'd still be impressive to get to this point. All right, it's his first All-Star selection, his 3rd year. He was a top draft pick. It's one thing to have the potential to get here. It's one thing to have the expectation to get here. Marleah, it's another thing to accomplish that. Your thoughts on Bobby Witt Jr. and the season he's putting together?
Yeah, I mean, ridiculously well-deserved, right? This is a no-brainer. But as you said, you know, I can remember a couple years ago hearing he's going to be the next big thing in baseball, and now to see this kind of come to fruition with getting the flowers of the All-Star game invite is pretty exciting for him. And I mean, he deserves it. He has had an unbelievable season on paper and off of it. He's a great leader in that locker room, signed that massive deal, so we're going to have him in Kansas City for a long time to come. So big news for him, and you know, this is only just the beginning. We're very lucky that we get to say he's going to be a Royal for the near future.
Yeah, I mean, he's a bona fide superstar. I think in many ways that's what he was a finalist for the All-Star voting, and the fan voting got second to Gunnar Henderson of the Baltimore Orioles. But I think the most impressive thing for me this year is how well-rounded of a player Bobby Witt Jr. has been from the jump. We kind of saw that last year from mid-July on, but he's hit the ground running this year in the sense that Marleah, he's getting on base consistently at a very high rate. He's putting the bat on the ball. He's walking enough. He's not striking out as much as he did his rookie year. So that in itself. But the way he's also getting on base, all right, he's hitting for average, and he's turning singles into doubles routinely. Yeah. He's turning doubles into triples routinely. He's had I think 2 triples that he had a line drive down the left field line. You're not supposed to do that. I know I can do that in slow pitch softball sometimes, but you know,
that's a given.
In Major League Baseball, when you hit it to the left fielder, you're not supposed to be able to get to third in that time, but he does it because he's so freaking fast, and he's hitting for power. He's a little bit behind his 30 home run pace of last season, but remember, he made up a lot of that ground in the second half of last season, so I still wouldn't rule out him getting to 30 home runs. He's at 15 right now. So again, a little bit back of his pace, but he's still hitting for power, but he's also hitting for more triples, more doubles, more singles, and he's stealing bases. I mean, he's a great base runner, and he's playing great defense. His ability to track the ball, those bloop hits that normally would fall, going back, he's elite. Coming in, he's elite. He's got a great arm. He's just one of the most well-rounded players in the game, Marleah.
Yeah, and coming through in really clutch moments, too. You know, we were talking to Dayton Moore, came into town to host his annual camp a couple weeks ago. He called him the best player in all of baseball, which was pretty cool coming from a guy like him. Obviously, Moore was involved in his kind of recruiting and scouting process. But, you know, bright future ahead for Bobby Witt Jr. Again, very glad he's in Kansas City for it. And again, it's cool to see him get his flowers this year.
And now he's not just going to be tipping his cap at the start of the All-Star game. He's going to have a spotlight on Monday to do some real damage. Your thoughts on him making the home run derby? That's man. Even, like I said, you get an All-Star selection every year. You don't get a home run derby participant every year.
Well, and Salvador Perez, the next guy on our list, was the last guy to make it in 2021, which I know I'm jumping the gun. We're going to get into that a little bit too, but so much fun to be able to watch that. It's special. You know, you mentioned 5 guys have done it in Royals history, so we don't get to watch this very often. Going to make for a really fun night. I'm excited to see what he does.
Yeah, and I thought maybe a lot of these guys have like their dads pitch to him, which of course Bobby Witt Sr. was a former pitcher. Being reported that it's another former big leaguer, his brother-in-law who pitched in the bigs, is going to be his thrower or pitcher, I guess.
I think he said his dad's arm was a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. But which
understandable.
Yeah, if you want to be sentimental, I think it's cool your dad throwing. But if Senior can't throw strikes, you know, we need someone.
We're trying to win here.
we need someone out there that can really command the ball. So I think that'll be cool. It's the home run derby is such a unique deal because I don't know what to expect. Right? You're kind of. If you don't do well, it's like, oh, okay, you know, whatever. But if you do well, you can really make a name for yourself. That's kind of like, you know, Mike Moustakas, who did it, I think, in 2017, really didn't do that well. I was like, fine, you know. But Salvador Perez goes out and hits 28 home runs in 4 minutes, the second most in Derby history in that time, only trailing the guy he went up to in the bracket, Pete Alonso. And so I think this is another great opportunity for Bobby Witt Jr. to solidify the star that he is. Dayton Moore says he's the best player in baseball. I don't know if I go that far, but he's a top 5 player probably. Yeah. And if you can perform in the home run derby and really put Kansas City even more on that national scene, Marleah, this is a great opportunity.
And I'd like to see some redemption, too, from the Salvador Perez in 2021. Remember they had him in that 2 box the whole time?
Yeah,
and they
were
kind of like they were talking about someone else the whole time. I'd like to see redemption on that front, too, because I know that frustrated a lot of Royals fans. Present company included.
Exactly. If they interview Pete Alonso for even a second during Bobby Witt Jr.'s round, I'm going to go to Texas. And I'm not going to go to Texas. I'm just going to yell at Gabe Schwartz. So Bobby Witt Jr. on the home run derby, I think it's an impressive development story. Yes, he was the number 2 overall pick, but we've seen high picks not reach this level. So the fact that he's an all-star, Dayton Moore, who picked him, should be proud. J.J. Koller should be proud for developing him what he is today. Alex Zumwalt, the hitting coach, Matt Quatrero. Jose Alguacil, the infield coach for the Royals, I think top to bottom should be very proud. And John Sherman for signing Bobby Witt Jr. to the contract.
Massive deal, yeah.
I mean, in some ways it's looking like a steal at this point, you know, because he's going to finish at least top 5 in the MVP voting if he can stay healthy. So the fact that he is locked in for the next handful of years at least is an impressive development. All right, Marleah alluded to Salvi. This was not a surprise as well that Salvi's going to the All-Star game because it's his 9th time. And Marleah, it would have been his 10th if we didn't have a pandemic in 2020. Because remember, he was the best player in the Royals in 2020, but there was an All-Star game. So 9th, that's 12th most by any primary catcher in baseball history. Marleah, they've been playing a lot of All-Star games for many years. So if you're the 12th most, that's kind of crazy. I mean, a majority of those 12 are in baseball's Hall of Fame. And it's well-deserved. His .343 on-base percentage this year is the highest total of his career for a full season. He had higher in that 2020 pandemic-shortened season and higher in his shortened season as a rookie. But if he keeps this pace up, that's his career best, and he's 34 years old.
Amazing, yeah.
So he's getting on base, but he's also hitting for extra bases, second most of any catcher in baseball.
Yeah, you kind of wish they would have had an honorary All-Star roster in 2020. Now that you're saying that,
because that kind of stinks. They handed out Silver Sluggers. So he won the Silver Slugger that year, but not All-Star.
Yeah. That's kind of like a bummer with the technicality looking back. But still, ninth All-Star game, third in the last 4 years. He's only getting better. His numbers are only improving and staying consistent the older he gets. I'm excited to be a part of this era of Royals baseball kind of fandom, I guess, and being able to cover them because, years from now we're going to be looking at a Salvador Perez statue saying, remember when? So, exciting for him. And again, just his mentorship for this clubhouse. And it's really been cool seeing him stick around. And, he was part of that 2014, 2015 Royals era where, things were great. Then for many years, things were not great. And, he stayed as the glue of that team. And so now you kind of hope they get back to that point and back in the playoffs and everything while Salvy's still staying active because, it'd be nice to see him get to that point. But he's stuck through it. He's had a smile on his face through the whole time. Again, excited to see him go.
It's funny you mentioned the down years there because for a lot of years he was the only bright spot. I mean, I think of that 2021 season, 74 and 88, so not as bad as the last 2 years, I guess. But, I mean, he hit 48 home runs. He led baseball in home runs.
That was
he led
fun,
baseball.
too. That was the only thing.
Exactly.
At this point in the year, we didn't care about the outcomes. We were just watching Salvy's home runs because that was the only thing to watch.
He led the sport in RBIs, and he played 161 games. I mean, that was incredible, and he's not necessarily at that level, but you're right. He's not – we're not seeing the decline.
Sharp drop off.
You know, I mean, and I think for me, that's also knowing that is eventually going to come. He continues to beat Father Time, but eventually he won't. And so that's why you cherish every moment that you can in this setting because you don't know if he's getting that 10th All-Star game. I like his chances, but he had that one injury that cost him. He had Tommy John surgery in 2019, and once you have an injury later in your career, it's harder to come back from that. So I think it's important for Salvy's legacy, if he wants to get in Cooperstown, to keep putting up these numbers to the point where it doesn't matter what analytic people think of his pitch framing. If he has 12 All-Star games to his name, if he has 300 home runs, he just had his 1,500th hit on Sunday. He has 5 Gold Gloves, 4 Silver Sluggers. Marleah, it's going to be hard to keep him out of the Hall, which, again, George Brett's the only Royal ever to have a plaque in Cooperstown.
Yeah.
Salvy is not quite there yet, but I think if he just continues at this pace for a couple more years, I think we're talking about really the second greatest Royal of all time.
Yeah, you talking about Salvador Perez's career just over the years makes me think of when we were in Las Vegas covering the Super Bowl and we were talking to Patrick Mahomes and someone asked him in this media scrum, do you think you're going to look back and think like, man, those were the good old days? And he was like, no, I realize I'm in them right now.
Yeah.
Like, we're in the good old days right now. And that's how it feels to watch Salvador Perez, lift up a Gatorade tub and, hit a walk-off and smile like this is his first walk-off ever. I mean, it's just like the love of the game is so real after all these years. So pretty special to get to watch him and get an extra bonus game this year with the All-Star game.
And I would encourage you after this stream is done, if you're a big Salvador Perez fan, I posted a kind of compilation of players and his current and former teammates talking about him on Twitter last night, where they just talk about how much that Marleah just alluded to, how much he loves the game. And in that, the caption was, yes, 9 All-Star teams, but he's the only catcher in baseball history to make 9 All-Star teams, win 5 Gold Gloves, win 4 Silver Sluggers, and 1 World Series MVP. I mean, literally,
Not bad.
I think that's Cooperstown worthy, even if you take away the World Series MVP, which is kind of the outlier there. Still, only Ivan Rodriguez and Gary Carter, the only 2 catchers to do that, even if you take out the Silver Sluggers, which has only been around for 45 years, only 45 years. But even if you take that out, I mean, you've still got guys like Johnny Bench and Bill Dickey and Yadier Molina, who might be headed to the Hall of Fame. So, Marleah, it's just a cool story because Salvador Perez came to Kansas City. He didn't speak any English. He came from Venezuela, signed as a 16-year-old kid with a single mother, and he just worked and worked and worked to now be one of the most beloved athletes in Kansas City sports history and one of the greatest catchers in baseball history.
And
how cool is that?
And so fun to be around. Like, this is a story I don't think I've told on air. I was in the clubhouse. It was towards the beginning of the season. We were working on story, and I was trying to get some like video shots of the field, like on the ground. So I had my camera on the ground and I was leaning on the stairs outside of the dugout, and I feel like this presence over my shoulder. And
God,
I look
is
back,
that you?
it is Salvador Perez, like looking at my camera, pretending to mess around or something. Just a goofy, fun guy to be around. Not a lot of veterans in any professional sport are able to, kind of have that much fun with local reporters and stuff. So great guy, great player. And again, bonus game this year, getting to see him down in Texas next week.
Yep, and he loves Kansas City, and Kansas City loves him back. So I think it's great that he gets to represent the Royals once again on a national stage, and the Royals can be proud of their representative. I remember there was a handful of years there in the mid-2000s where the Royals All-Star was like, oh, no. No offense to Mark Redmond, but it's like, oh, gosh. No, Royals fans can be very proud of Salvador Perez and of Bobby Witt Jr. and of Seth Lugo, who is another first-time All-Star joining Bobby Witt Jr. and Cole Ragans. Marleah, when we learned of the Seth Lugo signing this offseason, I believe you said, you know what, Jared, he's going to start the All-Star game. I said, wow,
I remember saying that. Bold take.
For a free agent signing, this has been incredible. You see it there on your screen. He leads, at the time of selection, he led Major League Baseball in wins, innings, ERA at 2.21, starts, quality starts. So it's not just like he's pitching deep into the games and eating innings. No, he's pitching deep into games, and he's also striking out tons of batters. He's also not giving up any runs, very few home runs. So for a 34-year-old to do this is just an incredible accomplishment for Lugo.
Yeah, I picked him up a 3-year deal, $45 million back in December. He was kind of one of many dominoes to fall over that period of the time. The Royals spent a ton of money this offseason. And, that wasn't one that you particularly flag as like, okay, this is going to be a franchise-changing addition.
Well, it was one of their biggest free agent signings in team history, but that's more so because they hadn't spent a whole lot of money to that point. So I think it was absolutely a significant signing, but we didn't know that he'd be
very well.
This.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think you mentioned Bobby Witt Jr. and Salvador Perez as the cornerstones of this roster, which is true, but I think arguably the biggest reason they're as good as they are is because of Seth Lugo, Cole Ragans, the pitching, and that's headlined by Seth Lugo. Yeah,
you don't have the season you're having right now without those two guys, and especially, as you mentioned, with Seth Lugo. So, again, flowers well-deserved. Excited to see him go. And, man, what a great first year as a Royal.
Well, and he might start the All-Star game, too. I mean, there's a legitimate – we don't know that yet.
Again, not on my 2024 bingo card, but –
we'll see. I mean, listen, there's some stiff competition, so he's got to have another good start here coming up against the Red Sox on Saturday, I believe. Maybe we'll know by then if he's starting or not. But even Marleah, his story, in 2011, he was the 1,032nd draft pick. All right, that's when they had a lot more rounds than they do now. So he was drafted that late, and he really wasn't given much of a chance as a starting pitcher with the New York Mets because, Marleah, people forget, Seth Lugo was not a starting pitcher until last year. So this is only his second. He's 34 years old. It's his second year starting, and he's blowing dudes away. I mean, when you watch him pitch, what is there anything that stands out to you? Because I'll give you my answer. We'll see if we're on the same page here. But your initial when you watch him, is there any?
You're talking
unique?
Just like his mechanics.
Not necessarily mechanics, but like when he's on the mound. I'll instead of beating around bush, is his fact that he's able to mix his pitches in a way that you have no idea what's coming. I don't know how these hitters know what's coming because he's got like 8 pitches. Because his fastball, he might go 91, then he might go 95. Then his curveball is easily the best curveball in the sport. He's got a slider, he's got a changeup, he's got everything that. Marleah, he's a fun pitcher to watch, so I'm glad to see he's going to get this national stage.
Yeah, as is our next guy.
Yeah, another. Well, it's interesting that you say that because it's part of why I like Seth Lugo watching him pitch is because he doesn't blow me away like Cole Ragans does with his power in the sense that Ragans can hit 100. He can have a nasty slider that the Royals taught him that you're like, all right, yeah, that's the ace stuff. Lugo doesn't jump off the screen like that, but he has similar results. Which was, again, didn't mean to get all mechanical on you there, but that's why I like watching Lugo pitch. And Ragans doesn't have the same ERAs as Lugo, but he's been striking out dudes left and right, 4th most in baseball. It's his first All-Star selection. And Marleah, this was the one that we maybe were on the fence about whether or not he'd get in, but I think it's well-deserved.
Yeah. I mean, and that 1-2 punch has just been so massive for this team, and a team that's not had the best pitching in recent years. So, yeah, just big confidence booster for this club, and excited for Cole Ragans, too. Obviously, earned the season opener start this season. And, man, just what a fun time to be a Royals fan again. I just remember so many years at this point in the season, everyone already kind of being like, oh, here we go. You know, when is this thing going to end? So to be still talking about, first of all, 4 guys in contention or in the All-Star game, but then to be able to come out of this All-Star break and talk about, you know, games actually mattering. Is that a word?
Yes.
Mattering, whatever. In August, September is awesome.
Right. Well, I think the Ragans story, it's part of why I kind of made the rundown like this, Marleah, is because I think all four have very different, unique, and awesome stories. Bobby Witt Jr., his dad pitched in the bigs. He grew up in a clubhouse, and top draft pick, superstar right off the jump. Salvador Perez comes from Venezuela, works his way up to the system, and now he's the veteran. Seth Lugo, reliever, late round draft pick, works his way up, finally gets an opportunity, and is taking the league by storm. The Royals signed him as a free agent this past year. Then Cole Ragans, someone who's had 2 Tommy John surgeries, and the Royals traded for him last summer. So 4 different paths. You've got a draft pick, an international signing, a free agent, and a trade. In Royals history, they've never had 4 different acquisition paths like that make the same All-Star team. Because during those years, you had Hosmer, those were all draft picks. But no, all 4 different paths. And so, man, we're giving Cole Ragans the flowers, but how about J.J. Piccolo?
I was going to say, how will we get the front office their
exactly, because they at the bottom, Cole Ragans joined the Royals rotation last August. He hasn't even been in Casey's stable for a year now, and he's an all-star.
Yep.
That, I know when we made the trade, Marleah, your instant reaction was, you know what? I think Cole Ragans will make the all-star next year. But, man, what a trade. Aroldis Chapman, great. First of all, great to sign Aroldis Chapman for cheap last year, and then trade him for this for then a prospect that no one knew how much he'd blow up, Marleah. Great job by the front office.
Yeah, and just let this be a confidence booster for the front office and for the fan base, because they haven't given them a lot of reasons to be confident over this last, 10 years or whatever it's been without a winning season since the 2015 World Series run. So, this is just, you laid it out beautifully, like the perfect build of 4 guys with very different roads to this. That is really cool.
And all showing, especially the 2 pitchers showing perseverance.
Right.
Lugo to stick with it. And again, Ragans, 2 Tommy John surgeries. A lot of people thought he'd just be a bullpen arm.
Yeah.
No, he's a horse at the top of the rotation.
Those are like a crippling surgery. I mean, those are like brutal to come back from. No, it's going to be a lot of fun.
And so I think first time the Royals have ever had 2 starting pitchers in the same All-Star game in franchise history, which is kind of crazy because in the 80s they had a number of really good starters, so I don't know what the heck was going on there. But nonetheless, very impressive. So if you don't already have it marked on your calendar, now you should, because Kansas City is going to be well represented. The All-Star game is Tuesday, July 16th. The Home Run Derby, Monday, July 15th. So we've got that to look forward to. Marleah, general question here. You can take it anywhere you want. Your All-Star game memories can be for the Royals, can be for baseball if you don't have anything there. If you have just a general sports All-Star perspective.
That opens it up. Yeah.
I'm in the theme of Royals baseball, but if nothing comes to mind, feel free to take it anywhere when we celebrate the sports elite.
Yeah, most recently a fun one is obviously Salvi in 2021, but I think the one that really strikes home for me when I think about the last time as a Royals fan, because you and I both grew up Royals fans. The last time I had a really good time watching an All-Star game was 2016. Eric Hosmer taking home the MVP. You're fresh off of that World Series win.
There you go.
Just a lot of momentum that year, and we did not know the darkness that was coming after that. So that was kind of the last I know before things took a turn here. But
Hosmer won All-Star game MVP, and Salvador Perez also hit a home. Hosmer and Perez both went deep that game.
Yep.
I remember they had like the dugout mic'd up in that game, and Hobbs was like, this is what we do, big stage, we come out. And the last 2 in 2014, keep in mind that was 2016, so they were the defending World Series champs, back-to-back years in the Fall Classic. Yeah, they perform on the big stage. Looking back, Royals players saying, this is what we do. It's kind of like, all right, that didn't necessarily follow after that. Yeah. But at that point, that was cool, and that's why I love the All-Star game, because, again, it's a chance to put Kansas City on the national spotlight. Maybe it doesn't mean as much now as it did when you and I were growing up, because Kansas City's now always in the national spotlight with the Chiefs, and Royals have been good, but also soccer capital of America. And so it's maybe not as uncommon, but it's still pretty cool. And going back, you mentioned 2016. 2015 was the year they stuffed the ballot, where at one point in time they had 7 of the 9 American League starters. It ended up being a few less than that. But I think of Royals fan All-Star game voting, how cool that was, and hopefully in coming years we can get back to that. Baltimore kind of owned Kansas City this go around.
Yeah. So we were talking to Vinny Pasquantino in the clubhouse before this year's 2014 Royals reunion, where they brought all the guys back, and Vinny obviously not from here. We were asking him if he knew anything about that 2014 kind of era of the Royals team, and that's what he immediately pointed to. He goes, I remember Kansas City fans stuffing the ballot box and voting everyone into the game. Yeah. So kind of fun that was the legacy from a guy, now playing with the team that didn't know anything about them back then.
Exactly. Hashtag vote Omar. And, of course, the 2012 All-Star Game was hosted here in Kansas City. That's the other most recent. And back in the 70s when the stadium opened, Bo Jackson, of course, won All-Star Game MVP in 1989 when he hit that home run. And when you think of the home run derby, I think people also think of Robinson Cano getting booed by Royals fans in 2012 because he said that he would pick Billy Butler for the derby, and then he didn't. That's back when they had captains pick the players for the derby, so Kansas City let him have it. And then, of course, hosted the All-Star Game on Tuesday. I was at the derby and the All-Star Game, and just great memory for Kansas City. And so it's cool that, we're going to have another All-Star Game memory next week.
And that was kind of our big the 2012 game was kind of, one of the big kickoff events, I think, of the next decade of big things that we got to host.
Little did we know the next decade that would follow. No, that's a great point. 2012 was – that All-Star Game was a huge event.
Yeah, I think it showed, look, Kansas City can host these things and do it well. Hence, the NFL Draft, World Cup coming. Yeah.
Well, in the next year, the Chiefs hire Andy Reid and trade for Alex Smith, and the Royals have their first winning season in a decade in 2013. Then they, win back-to-back pennants. Then the Chiefs turn around, and it's all history. But All-Star with the All-Star Game. I like that perspective. So, congrats to these Royals. And congrats to you on watching another KC Sports Tonight or listening to us.
Equally as exciting.
We appreciate it. Flowers for you. You are an all-star in our book, viewer. Thank you.
Can make me emotional.
Yeah. All right, Marleah, great stuff. We'll be back here tomorrow. And with that, James Shields, salute. Have a good one, everyone.